Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamuditye Nashtavrayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, text number 30 onwards. So last time we discussed how Krishna is describing about the soul, and then he said this verse, which is known as amazing verse. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So this is soul. So now he will he'll come back, because earlier he had shifted his tracks a little. He said, okay, even if you don't believe in soul, even if you just think the symptoms of life appear and disappear, like philosophers today say that life is just a combination of chemicals. So he said, then even then, why there is no cause for lamentation for losing some chemicals, although it's not just chemicals. But he's trying to convince Arjuna from every angle. Now he is coming back to the soul part. Dehi nityam avadhyo ayam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Of course, that doesn't mean we start killing whimsically, but the grievance that why, if I do my duty, if I, as a Kshatriya, if I kill, what will happen? No. So he's finally saying, this is the final instruction on the soul. He who dwells in the body can never be slain. There's no time it can be slain. That's why it said it's eternal, unborn, aja. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhishma and Drona, will die in the battle. On the authority of Shri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body. Not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged. But at the time of war, it's not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. So that need is not justified by some politicians, should not be that way. It's justified if it is sanctioned by the Lord himself. But these days, yes, people just get up and just for some oil or land or some other things, they just declare wars. Those are all irreligious wars, and it just has a big karmic reaction to it. And actually, Prabhupada, at one place, he said, the wars these days, there's only one reason for that. And that is the result of animal slaughter. So much of animal slaughter goes on everywhere, all over the world it is going on. And this is what happens. It generates such a huge karmic reaction. And so results in a war where then the people will be butchered like animals. So it's such a horrendous crime to kill animals, slaughter them just to eat their flesh. And it ends up in wars. People lose lives. And then there will be so much of hue and cry and this and that. But you killed animals, not just killed, slaughtered them, and millions and millions of animals are slaughtered every day. Whether it's America, whether it's India, Russia, everywhere. And for what? Just to fill our bellies, which Krishna has never justified that. So that option is there for human beings. So we misuse our intelligence, misuse our independence, we suffer. Simple as that. Now Krishna is changing gears and telling Arjuna that even if you don't talk about the soul and body, if you just want to talk about your dharma as a Kshatriya, because Arjun had put in his reasons for not fighting. He's saying that if I fight, I'll incur sin and I'll not be happy. He was confused and he said, I'll be doing this Varna Sankar, means killing the killing the older generation, and then the new generation will not be guided properly. Now Krishna is coming to that as a Kshatriya, you have to fight. This is your duty as a Kshatriya. So he says, text 31, so dharmam api chaveksha navikambitum arhasi dharmayati yuddhashreyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. So there is no need for hesitation. So far you were saying there was no need for lamentation. Now as a Kshatriya, you should fight. You have to fight. And there is no need for hesitation or whatever will happen. But because this fighting is on religious principles. Yes, irreligious principle, you should not fight. But this fighting is on religious principles. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the Varnashram Dharma, the second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm or hurt is called Kshatriya, Trayate. Kshat Trayate iti Kshatriya. The Kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. So this is Kshatriya spirit. A Kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. Not just he will hide behind or hide on a tree and has all the gadgets and put a goat to lure the tiger into the trap and then shoot him, and then he will say, oh, I'm such a brave person. No, that's not Kshatriya. Kshatriya, as Prabhupada says, they were trained like this. He would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. Yes, sword is allowed because tiger has claws and teeth to attack with. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. So they are the real Kshatriyas. They would fight with the tiger like that. Because why? First to understand their training in the bodily strength and maneuvers and dodging the attacks. And secondly, when they kill an animal, a tiger, especially a tiger like that, the flow of blood should not disturb the Kshatriya. Because when in the war, you will see plenty of blood and plenty of wounds. It should not disturb. The Kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. Not directly. When they are old, yes, they should accept. Because in older day, we have read about all these kings, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Bharat Maharaj, Rishabdev Maharaj, everybody. At the end, they would give up the kingdom to the right ear, and they would go for sannyas. They would renounce everything and go to live in the forest. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it's never effective or principle. In the religious text law books, it is stated, in the battlefield, a king or Kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death. As are Brahmins who also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. So Kshatriya king, when they fight in the battle, the thing is, if they lose, if they die in that battle, they go to heaven because they have died protecting their religion or a religious cause or just cause. And if they win, then they enjoy the kingdom. And that's pretty much Krishna is going to tell us. See, if you die, you'll go to heaven. So you're on the right side of the wall. And if you, and if you win, if you kill the other party, you will enjoy this whole kingdom, whole earth actually. So there is no reason for your hesitation. And here Prabhupada has quoted that the Brahmins also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. So Brahmins, their training is done to do yajna, to teach yajna, to study scripture, to teach scriptures, and to accept charity and give charity also, dana pratigraha. And also at the same time, there are qualities of them. This is the karma. So this is what Krishna explains in 4th chapter, that he has created this social order, which is called Varnashram system, which is based on guna and karma of the person. The qualities, so Brahmins are trained. So a person is a Brahman. Of course, he has some qualities, inherent qualities, and then he goes to Gurukul and Guruji trains him properly in developing those qualities. And then when he sees, oh, this boy is a Brahman, has Brahminical qualities, just like once there was a Gurukul, and which system was completely ruined by British and Muslims also in India, which has really messed up the system in India. So this boy went to the Gurukul, and teacher asked him, who are you? Are you Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra? So first of all, Guru, then he understands who is it, and then he gives him the training accordingly. It's not like same education for everybody. It doesn't do any good. So that boy said, I don't know, because I don't have a father. I live with my mother. So I don't know if I'm Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Then Guruji said, okay, you go home, you ask your mother, and then you come back to mother and tell me, who's your father? Boy went home and boy told his mother, asked her, who am I? Who's my father? And mother, she could not lie to the boy. She said, actually, my dear son, I don't know if she said I was a prostitute or I am a prostitute. She said, I don't know, because I had connections with so many men. So I don't know who's your father. So the boy came back next day to the Gurukul and he told, and Guruji asked again, and he told Guruji in front of the class, openly. He said, I don't know, because this is what my mother said. My mother said I was a prostitute and I slept with so many men, and I don't know who's your father. And you know what Guruji said? Guruji said, because you had guts, you had courage to speak the truth in front of the whole class, that means you are a Brahmin. If you were somebody else, you would have lied. You would have said some other thing. You did not lie. You told the truth in front of everybody without hesitation. So you must be, your father must be a Brahmin, you must be a Brahmin. I'll give you teaching, training as a Brahmin. So Brahman doesn't mean that one who is born in a Brahmin family is a Brahman. This depends on one's guna, qualities. But since Muslim rule and then British rule, it has completely messed up this Varnashram system in India. And now it has become a caste system, not a Varnashram system. And this is really messing up India's progress, spiritually and materially, both ways, actually. Because if a person is Brahman, has the qualities of Brahman, and if he gets trained as a Brahman, and if he works as a Brahman, then he will be happy, he will be satisfied in his life. And then secondly, and then as a Brahman, his needs are very little, he is satisfied with very little. And then he can live and contribute to the society properly. If somebody is a Kshatriya by nature, if he is trained as a Kshatriya, Kshatriyas means administration, fighting, go in the war, fight. And these Kshatriyas are the real Kshatriyas. They don't run away from war. Not like in America, we had the draft. Everybody was drafted. All young men, they were drafted into the war, whether you like to fight or not. So that's not Kshatriya spirit. In India, Prabhupada himself said, it is talked about Jaipur state here in the purport, but he also said Sikh and Gurkhas, they are the real Kshatriyas. They don't run away from battle. So obviously, it doesn't mean that people from South India, they're not Kshatriyas, or people from other places, they're not Kshatriyas. They could be boys from anywhere. But in general, it was meant. And the Brahmins, as it is said here, they perform the animal sacrifice. So the thing was, in the animal sacrifice, the Brahmins were trained so perfectly in chanting of the mantras that when they would sacrifice an animal, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire. So the result was immediately that soul who was holding that old animal's body, immediately, right away, he gets either a human body or he gets a young animal body, right away. That's how powerful the Brahmins were. With just chanting of the mantras. So that's Brahman. But in Kali Yuga, you cannot find those Brahmins. So you cannot chant the mantras properly to do this kind of sacrifice. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, all these sacrifices are prohibited. Cannot do. And that is what happened when Kali Yuga progressed. The Brahmins, they became so-called Brahmins. They were not really Brahmins by training or by qualities. So they were performing these animal sacrifices. In the name of sacrifices, they were killing animals and eating their flesh. Brahmins are not supposed to eat the flesh of animals. And that is when Krishna appeared as Buddha, Lord Buddha. He said, no animal sacrifice, ahimsa paramo dharma. In Bhagavad Gita, he never says Arjuna. He is telling Arjuna to fight, to kill. But at that time, because of all these sacrifices going on in the name of Vedic yagyas, and Brahmins were eating flesh, Buddha had to come and stop it. Of course, in the process, he ended up saying, okay, if Vedas say animal sacrifice is over, don't believe Vedas, follow me. So indirectly, he led them into following Krishna or himself, but because he put down Vedas, Vedas is the basis of everything. This system of religion was driven out of India. Now everything in India also they're following, but the Buddhists that are there now, actually it's all mixed up. They don't follow Lord Buddha's teachings properly, all completely mixed up. So this was a rule actually. This is what is mentioned in scripture. And regarding the Kshatriyas, they don't fight, they don't run away from the battle. In Rajasthan, not too long ago, a few hundred years ago, maybe 200, 150, 200 years ago, there was a king, I don't remember his name. So there was somebody attacked his kingdom and he went on the battlefield with his army. So from the battlefield, he came back. He was hurt, he was injured, he came back. And Queen was there on the watchtower at the main gate. And the king said, open the door, I'm injured. And Queen saw he was injured on his back. And Queen said, I'm not opening the door because you ran away from the battlefield. Either you go back, you come back victorious, or you come back dead. Otherwise, I'm not opening the door. That's how the Kshatranis were. The king, he understood, he went back, and then he fought very valiantly and he became victorious, and then he came back. Then he was invited and welcomed by the queen. So that is real Kshatriya. Where do we see these kind of Kshatriyas? And this is what Krishna is telling. You are a real Kshatriya, not ordinary person. It is said every part of Arjuna's body was a muscle, was a very strong muscle. This is how they were trained. And this is what Krishna is telling. You are a Kshatriya, you have to fight. So you cannot run away from your dharma as a Kshatriya. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. And the Kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmins, who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are two kinds of swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated. Liberation doesn't mean we leave our body, then we get liberated. Liberated means, as Rupa Goswami has explained in one of his scriptures, that when we are engaged in the service of the Lord by body, mind, and words, we are liberated, already liberated. So if one is not engaged in the service of the Lord, still one does perform his duties, but he has some relaxation. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. So when one lives his life according to his varnashram and acts properly, then he is satisfied, his mind is at peace, and then he can uh, elevate or advance spiritually. Slowly he can work on this. Because the idea of varnashram system is not just to live here comfortably or in a satisfied way, is to make spiritual progress. Brahmins are supposed to give spiritual knowledge to all the other varnas and ashrams. So spiritual progress is the theme of the varnashram system, not just living here and taking birth again and dying again and then taking birth, going through cycle of old age, disease, death again and again. No, that's not the purpose of life. So when one is liberated, one's swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in material bodily concept. But in the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmins and Kshatriyas respectively. And these duties are unavoidable. Unavoidable. Such swadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, swadharma is called varnashram dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of varnashram dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. So Brahmins, as we'll study in 17th or 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, so Brahmins are in the mode of goodness, Kshatriyas in the mode of passion, Vaishyas in the mixed mode of passion and ignorance, and Shudras are in ignorance. They're all material modes, and if a Shudra performs his duties as a Shudra, he can make spiritual progress. He can be satisfied and make spiritual progress. Shudras nowadays, because of caste system, everybody is fighting for to make more money, to get some social position, to get some administrative power or whatever. But that doesn't make one happy. It can make one, okay, I'm rich and I have this kind of money, that kind of money, but that doesn't make one happy. It doesn't make one satisfied, doesn't make one spiritually advanced either. So this whole thing is gone topsy-turvy in Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada says human civilization begins from the stage of varnashram dharma. Not following any dharma. Because it has become caste system, people don't want to follow it. Human civilization begins from the stage of varnashram dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. That's a goal of human life, to make progress gradually, spiritually. That's a goal. But now the goal has become just somehow make money and then eat, drink, and be merry. That's all. And doing one's duty. See, Arjun wanted to run away from the battlefield, and he said, "I'll live as a beggar. I would rather live as a beggar than killing my grandfather and my teacher." But Arjun has the qualities of a Kshatriya. Living as a beggar is the quality of a Brahman, actually. Brahmins, they can live very simply, very, very simply. So Arjun is not in that mode. So if he lives as a beggar, he will always be disturbed. He cannot function as a beggar. He is Kshatriya, he has to live as a king, he has to have some people to rule over, some land to rule over. This is how they are satisfied. This is how they live. So if one is not satisfied in one's life, then one cannot make progress spiritually at all. And at the same time, he took the body in his last life, or whatever previous life. Of course, Arjun is a constant associate of the Lord, so they don't come under that karmic cycle, but we do. So if in my last life or previous lives I have done some activity, so I get a body with the more prominent mode of passion in this body. And if I want to live as a beggar, the passion is more prominent, goodness is not. But that beggar means not the ignorant beggar. Those as a Brahman beggar. So I'll be disturbed and I'll be creating disturbance in the society. So that's not a very good system. So I cannot imitate somebody else's qualities and want to and think that I can live that way. No. Text 32. Yadriksha chapapannam swargadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha labhante yuddhamidrisham. O Parth, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. As supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna, who said, I don't find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become non-violent in the discharge of his specific duties. For a Kshatriya to be on the battlefield and to become non-violent is a philosophy of fools. In the Parashar Smriti of religious codes made by Parashar, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties. And for that reason, he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings. And thus, with the religious principles, he should rule over the world. That is a duty of a Kshatriya. He has to protect the citizens. And this is what, and on top of it, Krishna is telling us that you have to fight. So this is his duty, and because of ignorance, he wanted to run away. And he said, "Oh, I'll be perpetually living in hell if I fight and if I kill my guru and my teacher or my grandfather." On the other hand, Krishna is saying, if you fight this war, you will be happy because you will be working according to your mode. And Krishna is saying, this war will open the door for heavenly planets for you, not to hell. You will not go to hell. So considering all aspects, Arjun had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom. And if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors are wide open for him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case, not that he will go to hell or he will not be happy. Rather, he would be attaining both heaven and happiness. But again, this is duty of Arjun as a Kshatriya. It's not that Arjun was recommended fighting, we should start fighting. No. If we are Kshatriya, if it is our duty, the war is a calling, we should go. Otherwise, no, do our duty properly. Atha chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyati tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. It's a big thing for a Kshatriya to lose his reputation. They are passionate people, they live for their reputation. And here Krishna says, if you do not fight, you will incur sin. Not that by fighting you are incur sin. If you do not fight, do not do your duty, then you will incur sin. And then you will lose your reputation as a fighter. He basically saying, oh, so you think that if you withdraw from this battle, then there's Karna and Duryodhan and Dushasana, they'll say, oh Arjun, you're a very magnanimous soul, you're going away from battle. They'll make fun of you behind your back. You'll lose your reputation. Everywhere people know Arjun ran away from fighting, from the war. He's such a coward. Prabhupada said, Arjun was a famous fighter. And he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjun pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupatastra. He didn't defeat in the manner that Lord Shiva was lost. He just fought with Lord Shiva, and he fought with him long enough that even Shivji was pleased with his fighting skills. So when Arjun was performing tapasya, Krishna had told him to get weapons from Lord Shiva for this battle of Mahabharata. Lord Shiva came as a hunter. And when Arjun was performing this tapasya, a dog came and he was barking, and that was disturbing Arjun. So Arjun just picked up his weapon and he shot an arrow at the dog so that he could seal the mouth of the dog. Not to kill him, just to seal his mouth. And dog ran away. Arjun went there to see what happened, and then he saw many arrows in the mouth of the dog. Arjun was surprised. I shot only one arrow. Who's the other person? And then a hunter came. And hunter said, well, I shot this arrow, so I'm better Arjun. And Arjun would not take. This was an insult for him. So then they both fought. And it went on for some time. And then Lord Shiva shot arrows at Arjun, that Arjun was not killed, but his arm was kind of not movable anymore. Could not even pick up his weapon. So then Arjun realized it was Lord Shiva himself. Lord Shiva was very pleased with him. And Arjun asked for Pashupatastra. Lord Shiva gave him that astra. So, and he was such a big warrior. And then he went to heaven also. And he helped his father, Indra. And Indra was also pleased. And Indra gave him many weapons. This is how famous he was as a warrior, as a fighter. Duryodhan only had two people to worry about in the whole battle, Bhima and Arjun. And he knew if he can take out just one of them, he would have won the battle. Arjun especially because as a fighter, and then Krishna was the charioteer of Arjun. So whole battle they tried to take out these two fighters and they could not. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior, Arjun. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him the special weapon by which he could even kill his teacher, Dronacharya. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father, Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from the battle. So that was a problem that Krishna is telling him. If you withdraw, then you will go to hell, not if you kill these people on the other side of the battlefield. Akirtim chapi bhutani katheshyanti te avyan sambhavitasya chakirtir maranad atirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. For a respectable person, they always live for their respect, for their honor. But dishonor is worse than death. Both as a friend and a philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield before the battle even begins, people will call you coward. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you would better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in the society. So this is very important. For a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. But these days, again, dishonor can mean anything. People, big people, they go to jail, they commit all kinds of cheatings because of followers. So people in general, they just respect a person who has money. They don't care how he has made money or what the character of the person is. Nobody cares anymore. Just money. If you have money, no matter how many nonsense things your son does, he will still be respected. And if somebody has money and he loses his money, he'll somehow or other try to get the money back because the money gives him honor, money gives him respect. So this is definitely Kali Yuga. Nobody cares for character building. Nobody cares for anything else. Money. But since the Bhagavad Gita was spoken towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, so at that time still there were some rules in life, in the society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle, not withdraw. Not withdraw. So Arjuna was the one of the reasons for his not fighting was his confusion. He was confused. So Krishna is telling him, this is the right thing for you. Don't get confused. Fight. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, the opening verse that you start the class with every day, where can I
I'll
find
send you. I'll send you.
Thank you.
I saw your message. I'll send you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.